I call this hearing to order, and without objection, the chair is authorized to declare a recess at any time. And I'd like to begin, as we always do now, to note some important requirements. Let me begin by saying that the Standing House and Committee rules and practice will continue to apply during remote proceedings. House regulations require the members to be visible through a video connection throughout the proceeding. So please keep your cameras on and remain muted until you're recognized to minimize background noise. In the event a member encounters technical issues that prevent him or her from being recognized for their questioning, I'll move to the next available member of the same party, and I'll recognize that member at the next appropriate time slot, provided they have returned to the proceeding. Should a member's time be interrupted by technical issues, I'll recognize that member at the next appropriate slot for the remainder of their time once their issues have been resolved. In the event of technical issues, I may need to recess the proceedings to address them. And with that, let's turn to today's business. I want to thank all of our witnesses for being here today. It's a pleasure to have such a talented and accomplished group of witnesses representing the arts sector. As you can see, I'm sitting in for Chairwoman Velasquez, who is unable to chair this hearing today. The arts sector, an important sector, employs nearly 5.2 million Americans and contributes $919 billion to our national economy. In my congressional district, the influence of the creative economy is all over the place. Writers, photographers, musicians, and designers launch small businesses, employ workers, and help Minnesota make it great through their art. But the impact of the arts economy is not confined to America's largest cities. It is evident in every part of the country. America's 675,000 art-centered businesses are present in every congressional district throughout the nation. Unfortunately, the pandemic has touched every business in the arts economy. Creative businesses and workers usually rely on in-person gatherings and live events to sustain their enterprises. However, as the virus spread throughout the country, led Americans to stay home and socially distance. 99% of entertainment productions canceled events throughout the pandemic so far, resulting in a loss of $557 million in ticketed admissions alone. At the height of the pandemic, 63% of creative workers experienced unemployment, and 95% lost creative income. The live events industry is a crucial component of the creative economy that has struggled greatly throughout the pandemic. This industry compromises not only theaters and music venues, but also musicians and performers and those that support live events, such as planners, caterers, designers, and so much more. These workers and small businesses have seen precipitous declines in revenue due to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic and related public health concerns, with countless events and gatherings being canceled or delayed for now the third year in a row. To help mitigate that impact of the pandemic on this industry, Congress created the Shuttered Venue Operators Grant Program, known as SVOG, as many have come to know it. To date, the program has delivered over $13 billion in grants to struggling venues throughout the country. This funding has helped many businesses, including several in my district, avoid permanent closure. However, SVOG was not accessible to many independent contractors and small business owners that comprise the broader live events industry, leaving them totally out in the cold. Last August, I held a listening session with business owners in the live events industry in Minnesota and heard heartbreaking stories of dreams delayed and hardships faced. And 5 months later, Congress is yet to take further action. It is crucial that we pass additional small business targeted relief to help those small businesses most impacted by the ongoing pandemic, including those in the live events industry itself. These funds would help business owners keep their doors open and workers employed, and would help strengthen our economic recovery as well, with the understanding that arts and culture are the second highest sector for value added per dollar in the United States economy. It is important to note as well, the benefits of the arts go well beyond economic. They have substantial impact on our country's social, civic, and cultural well-being. Alongside preserving and celebrating culture, research shows that as creative and artistic enterprises arise, ancillary businesses are more likely to form around them, creating more jobs and stimulating more local economies. But the wounds of the pandemic inflicted on the arts economy are deep and painful and potentially long-lasting. If we wish for the industry to return to pre-COVID trends and continue to be an economic engine for local communities, these businesses need more support and investment. Investing in the creative economy will help this crucial sector recover while also fueling overall economic growth for the United States. So today, I hope this hearing allows us to examine these challenges of those operating in the creative economy continue to face. I also look forward to discussing policies that can help support this important sector to all of us. With that, I'd like to yield to the ranking member, Mr. Lukemeyer, for his opening statement. And thank you, Ms. Presley, and to all of our witnesses. We appreciate what you've shared with us, and you very much humanized an issue of great importance to all of us on this committee and to our country. Now I'd like to begin by recognizing myself for 5 minutes. And Mr. Elrod, I'd like to start with you. You've referenced the pendulum of openings and closings and stops and starts of so many entertainment businesses. And as you know better than anyone, the live events industry in particular has been disproportionately impacted by the pandemic. So can you share a little bit more with all of us how are theater companies in particular responding to the chaos and disruptions of new openings and cancellations due to Omicron in particular?
Well, I think I can speak to my own experience in that, the show that I was working on this fall, The Alchemist for the Red Bull Theater Company, was an off-Broadway show at the New World Stages in Midtown Manhattan. And after 15 months of being completely and totally dark, finally Broadway was starting to come back, off-Broadway was starting to come back. So here we were, it was a comedy, and despite the masks, things were starting to look up and come back to normal. But just a few weeks into our run, we started to see the impacts of Omicron all across the city as different shows had different people calling out. And we, especially on Broadway, where shows are a little bit better resourced with understudies and covers and replacements for everybody in the building, even those most resourced shows were facing challenges that were ending up putting shows on hiatus or closing them altogether. So we were kind of watching from the sideline. And then on December 15th, it came to us in the form of me coming to the theater with symptoms, taking a rapid test, seeing a positive result, and 3 other people in the cast got it. And without the understudies, without the extra stage-hands, the theater was faced with only one choice, and that was to close the show completely. So it is very, very hard. As Rayanne Presley said, remote work is not an option. We all have to be there in the building. And if we're sick, we can't be in the building. And you can see the consequences writ large all over the country. Anywhere people have to gather together in enclosed spaces.
I appreciate that, and also your advocacy for more targeted relief dollars for an industry grappling with the challenges, and in particular the actors and the artists that are so impacted. So thank you. Ms. Garrett, you've noted that the Oregon Shakespeare Festival received $10 million, I believe, in SVOG funds and also $5 million in PPP funds. Could you share with the committee in more detail on how those allocations helped the organization survive?
Yeah, if you can imagine, at a $44 million organization, our spend rate was like $5 million a month. And even when we had to shrink everything down to about 10% of our staff, we were still going through a lot of money, giving back tickets and revenue and that kind of a thing, and keeping our lights on and the doors open and all of that stuff. That resource is supporting all kinds of things, including we were able to open a production last summer. We were able to do a production, our first winter production that opened and closed without any COVID-related closures, thank God. But we're spending $200,000 a month on tests just to try to keep people aware of whether or not they're sick or not. We have a very kind of robust system around making sure that we do have a lot of people covering, because closing for COVID was not an option for us to be able to open that show. And every time we do spend money at OSF to make sure that we keep going, we take the entire town with us. Everybody comes with us on that journey. So the restaurants are open because of the PPP money. The hotels are open because of the SVOG money. So in rural Oregon, we're a complete ecology interconnected with one another. And so for every dollar that we received from the federal government, every resource, every single dime helped to make sure that we could buoy the entire region, especially through the fire. And now we have a little bit of resource to be able to hopefully open this spring. And we're all crossing our fingers, but this is with a lot of resource being spent in advance to get the shows open and a lot of resource being spent for testing.
All right, well, and I thank you. I see my time is expiring, so now I'd like to recognize the ranking member, Mr. Lukemeyer, for 5 minutes.